Thank you so much for joining us today, Judge Penny Brown Reynolds. It is so wonderful to have you on Sunday Brunch with Higher Heights as Georgia voters prepare for the critical June 16th Democratic runoff election for Secretary of State. How are you doing today?
I'm actually doing quite well.
Uh-huh.
Early voting starts in a lot of the metro area of Atlanta on tomorrow. So
Hmm.
I am super excited. I believe we are going to win this.
Yeah. I believe it too. We listen, Higher Heights is standing right there with you, right beside you, believing and knowing that y'all are going to take that W. So let's jump right in. So for those who may not fully understand the role, what does the Georgia Secretary of State do, and why is this office so important, especially at a moment when voting rights and election administration are under so much intense scrutiny nationwide?
Well, I'll give you something that everybody will recognize. There was a call that was made in January of this year, and the president, not this year, the president of the United States called the Secretary of State, and he said, "All I need is 11,780 votes." Everybody knows. He thought, as the president of the United States calling the Georgia Secretary of State, that he was trying to rig and steal the election. Why is that? Because the Secretary of State is the chief elections officer, as promulgated by the Constitution of Georgia, which means that all elections must be certified by the Secretary of State, not the governor, not the lieutenant governor, or the attorney general. And unless the Secretary of State certifies the election, it's not valid. And so that's how critical this position is from a standpoint of our democracy, from the standpoint of everything that is going on. And it is one of the most important, if not the most important, it's particularly now, position that we have. It also does other things. We oversee elections. So that means that elections are done on the local level, but our office will train and will make sure that funding is equitable. For example, right now, the Secretary of State should have mandated that we have a weekend voting all over Georgia, but instead he left it up to the counties. Well, think about it from our perspective, trying to communicate to the residents and voters. So that kind of inconsistency causes confusion, which is what this office has done. And so we need to make certain that whoever's in this office is making access to voting and not barriers. We also oversee corporations and licensing. That's very important, particularly to Black women and
Yeah.
minority businesses,
Yes.
because right now all we're doing is letting you start a business and register it or an LLC, but nothing else is happening. That
Mm.
office should be helping businesses, maybe connecting them, giving them capital, or showing them and exposing them to opportunities. That will happen under my administration. Another thing is we oversee professions, over 40 different professions and 700,000 licenses. That means nurses and
Mhm.
chiropractors and barbers, regular everyday people. So when you're trying to get your license and you're a barber and they have a backlog now, that's
Mm.
money coming out of your pocket and your family's pockets. It's been terribly mismanaged. And then the fourth piece is we're over securities in the state. That means, and nonprofits. So I regulate anyone who's trying to sell securities and investments. What's happening in Georgia? It's one of the number one places for fraud as it relates to seniors, and nothing has been done in that area. And so I have a tall order, but because of my background, I'm well equipped to be able to deal with it. It's a very important. And then the final piece is I'm the official keeper of the Georgia seal and all of what would be deemed the official records of the state. That might seem like a minor point, but if I deem what is the official records as Secretary of State, that's very powerful. We've never in 247 years ever had a person of color to win the primary, let alone win the office. We've had with Stacey Abrams and now Keisha Lance Bottoms, we've had a Black attorney general, and now we have Tanya Miller, all who've been endorsed by Higher Heights. But we never, ever in the history of Georgia, next Tuesday when I win this primary, we make history together.
We are we are so excited. I mean, I can't even contain myself. We were just talking about Georgia here at Higher Heights on an earlier call, and we were like, we actually don't even know what we're gonna do. Like having the top three right roles statewide filled by Black women, it's gonna be a glorious day. But I just to jump into the next question, which you actually started to tee up and talking about that you have a tall order with all the things that you outlined, right? I think you just named 4 or 5 things that are major items that you will have coverage over as Secretary of State, but that you have the experience. And so you've had this tremendous career serving in all three branches of Georgia state government as a judge, as an attorney, public servant, educator, civil rights leader. What made this moment? You know, what made this the right moment to run for Secretary of State?
Every person, particularly every woman, because I've mentored so many women over the years, are constantly searching for their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I came to Georgia over 40 years ago specifically to come and train with civil rights leaders. Reverend Joseph Lowry, who was the dean of the civil rights movement, C.T. Vivian, who was the architect. I worked with them and for them. SCLC, sat on the board of SCLC Women, was the lawyer for SCLC, only judge on the NAACP. I mean, I have put everything that I am. I came to Atlanta to follow Dr. King's dream. I was even licensed to preach because I'm an ordained pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is the spiritual home of Dr. King. So it was with intentionality that I was led here. But now I understand from being President Biden's civil rights leader, or I oversaw the agency for the United States Department of Agriculture, to being from a prosecutor, from being the governor's lawyer. You ever had your life finally get to the point and you see it now? I've been achieving, PhD, professor, taught civil rights, and then I'm a judge. Then I have a Juris Doctor. Then I have a master's, postdoctoral studies from art. You know how you just almost stand back, and this moment requires a person like me. We are in serious trouble. And democracy, what is happening is because it's so slow that it's eroding and where rights are being taken away, and we're not even noticing why, because they've created a permanent underclass. And what happens throughout history, and you know this, when you have a permanent underclass, people are trying to buy groceries and people are caring about gas prices. And in Georgia, we're closing hospitals, so people don't have health care.
Mm-hmm.
Immortality rates for Black women. Everything that
Yeah.
is happening at the same time by design so that they can then slowly erode all of our rights. And
Yeah.
it all starts with voting.
It all starts with voting. And I think that's you know, a good segue again. It's almost like you know the questions I want to ask, but a central part of your campaign has been protecting voting rights and restoring trust in government. What specific actions would you take as Secretary of State to ensure every eligible Georgian can participate fully and fairly in our democracy?
That's the question of the day. And it's
Yeah.
a great question. One
Hmm.
of the things that has to happen is the Republicans did a fantastic job of poisoning the well,
Yeah.
of taking it, erosion and belief in a system. We never have to. I don't know what age you are. You look fairly young, but we've never had a problem with our believing that our elections were not fair and acceptable after we had Reconstruction, because we know they've always used this as a tool of oppression against us. And so we came to that point after President Obama. All of this is a backlash with this outlaw that's in the White House. And so this is all a backlash. And so if you watch history, this is what they do. They're playing that same playbook. So one of the things that has to happen in having a transparent process is that what I have to do is communicate to people that it's safe. And then you have to prove that it is. I am the chief elections officer, but there is an elections board. And the way the Constitution was written, they had this chief elections officer chair that board. Well, the legislature went in and changed that. And then they came up with all of these laws. For example, in last fall, the Secretary of State canceled out almost 800,000 registers. Now, there's nowhere in the Constitution that says your registration cancels at any time. You register to vote, and that's how it ought to be. But that's voter suppression. That's what they're doing. So, what can I do within the confines of the law? Then I will go out and register 1 million. If you take away 700,000, then I will register 1 million. And I'm not just going to delete them. I'm going to do everything in my power to make certain that there are processes in place because as an executive, I get to do that. So that's one of the things immediately I'm going to look at what's being done in the office, do a forensic review. I will have a 90-day plan, then a 6-month plan. Because when I'm sworn in as Secretary of State in January of 2027, I have a presidential election in January, in the following year in 2028.
Yep.
And guess what they're doing?
Pretty immediate.
They're
Hmm.
now changing the machines just before I get to come in office. There's a request for proposal right now to get rid of these machines, even before I'm elected. Now, the day after the election, the governor has called a special session to redistrict, and we can talk about that later. What else can I do? I'm going to use technology. Right now, we can get our Uber pack, we can get our Uber and we can track it. We can get an Amazon package tracked. I'm going to implement a situation where if you have a voting line, then you need to know how long is the line and how many people have voted. That will change the dynamics with a working mother when she has to decide when is the best time to go and get in line to vote. Maybe she should go in her lunch hour. I am for expanding early voting. They've contracted that. It's down to one weekend and it's not everywhere. I'm going to do a report card because I want to be accountable to everyone. They right now, that office does not have an office of constituent services. And one thing I learned from being the governor's lawyer, because I was the first African American in that position, when I'm the one, our people will call me. They don't care if it has anything to do with the Secretary of State's office. And so I'm going to have an office of constituent services so that they get a voice. Right now, you call that office, you get a recording. And I have to be accessible to our people, not just in the Atlanta metropolitan area, but all over the state. So that when they call, I'll give you something as simple as this. If you want to start a business in Georgia right now, there is not one place where you find out where do you get your license? What do you do for taxes? How do you do the Department of Labor? Well, I'm going to build in my website a one stop place where if you come to register your business, let me help you with other things. We're going to be, and so that's the big thing in terms of educating people on what we're doing. But every affirmative step that they use to try to block, I will use mitigating factors, not to violate the law, because as the only judge that's running, I took an oath to the Constitution. I will follow the law. But one thing they don't understand that I do, I know the law. I don't have to get advice from anybody. And I've been thinking about this a long time, trying to make certain that everyone has access who is eligible to vote. It is our right, and I won't allow them to take away our rights.
And it sounds like a lot of this will tamp down on confusion. I mean, just even what you said around like not being able to go to one spot to find right pertinent details. It shouldn't be that way, and it just feels like it's by design. And so, and I hear you saying it's going to be by design that you upend it and make it make Georgia a place where it is easy to access information, and it will be easy to vote. It will be easy to get a license. Not even easy to get a license, but at least understand what the process looks like.
Process is. Thank
Right?
you.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We keep talking about Georgia is the best place for business. The
Mm-hmm.
AFL-CIO, I'm the only candidate that they endorsed.
Mm.
They did it together with chambers of commerce. And you
Yeah.
might say, well, why would the business community want to deal with the candidate and workers?
Yeah.
Because what they understand is workers' rights are civil rights. And to put a civil rights person over an agency that touches not just voting, but opportunity, because the great equalizer is opportunity. You know what I represent? I represent when I'm elected, doing away with the scarcity of politics. They have used politics to make us believe that there are limited resources that only a few people are entitled to because of relationships that we have. Georgia has a $91 billion agribusiness. And I can tell you there's next to none African American women participating in that. That's an abomination when you think about all that we represent in this state. So, what I'm representing is this, a Georgia for all of us. But who better to do it than someone who's run state government, federal government, and has the legal background? So, I'm ready. When I tell you, I know that I was born and formed in my mother's womb for this moment.
Come on, somebody.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yes, I believe it.
Yeah. So going back to this primary, you emerged as the leading candidate, and now you're headed to, this one-on-one runoff. What do you believe voters responded to in your messaging, and what do you need them to know before they cast their ballot on June 16th?
You're correct. I got more votes than any Republican or Democratic candidate. I think it came down to a few things. Number one, experience still matters. And I think that with all of us having all of these grifters and all of these fake people who run for office and they just keep running and running, here's this authentic person who is a non politician but a judge. I don't know any other way than fairness, someone who's civil rights. I've spent my whole life defending the marginalized. And what I think happened when I won 121 counties, all of South Georgia, all of those areas that have been forgotten. I went to those places. And I think that people believe in my authenticity. But more than that, when we show up as Black women, we don't have the luxury of not being over prepared and overqualified. I'm actually overqualified for this job. That's what we bring to the table. Because when you're with another opponent, if you took my credentials, education, and experience and gave it to my opponent and I got hers, they would be saying I was woefully unqualified. I, and so what I did was, I'm not saying I transcended race, but what my argument, and think about it, I'm a lawyer. So my closing argument to them was that they were worthy of better. You can have a politician who's been doing this for 3 years, or you can have a person that you understand for 3 decades. I believe the faith community is coming through for me because I believe that people understand I lean on my faith for the courage that is going to be needed. This is going to be a national office. The minute he tweets or whatever he does, because what they know is this: I will not allow an election to be certified that has been rigged. I will take it to the bitter end. And when we're saying fighting, we're actually saying taking it to the courthouse steps. So I will be the first Secretary of State in history to have a law office within my Secretary of State. So I'm not coming to play. In the governor's office, I had a law office there because I oversaw lawyers. Because the only way we can combat this is to make certain that everybody's rights are available in this country. They make us feel like they're doing us a favor when they're actually not. So I think that message resonated. I think it did. I think that I often thought, and they told me it wouldn't matter, that your education, we grew up in a generation where they told us if you got your education, it could be the great equalizer. And I made a decision that I would not code switch, that I would run authentically from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet as a Black woman and a proud, educated Black woman who was experienced and overqualified to do this job. My days for fitting in and doing all of that, they were going to have to take me just as I am. And it turned out that it was okay. But this runoff system is a problem. I'm absolutely against it.
Yeah.
I think ranked choice elections are
Voting.
much better. Yes, absolutely. But we have what we have. And so what they're hoping for is that our voters, or people who tend to vote for me, which would be African American women,
Mm.
which are a big block in the Democratic primary, will not turn up.
Yeah.
We just won't go back out to vote. And I just believe that that's not going to be the case.
Yeah. They're going to show up. Georgians, y'all show up now. Well, I want to end with thinking about how we center joy and how you center joy. Um, campaigns are intense. You're just coming out of one election and heading into another. How are you staying grounded, finding joy, and taking care of yourself during this final stretch? And if you can give us maybe 30 seconds of an answer so that we can get you back out there to talk to voters.
The joy of the Lord is my strength. I'm leaning on my faith and the ancestors. I'm the daughter of a single mother. Everything that she went through, this is the vindication of that. Not for me being a judge, not for me being anything. It takes a lot to put yourself out there. But I know when the time came, I answered the call for democracy and I put myself there. So my mama's looking and I talk to her every day and she's with me. And so that's what's centering me right
Well, thank you so much, Judge Penny Brown Reynolds, for joining us on Sunday Brunch with Higher Heights. Before we let you go, please tell our viewers where they can learn more about your campaign, how they can support you, just any tidbits around voting for the June 16th election.
We win elections when we go to early voting. Because if we put it off to the last minute with women, we take care of our parents. Anything could come up with our kids. So we're asking that all of our folks go out and early vote. I would love for you to consider giving me a contribution. You can go to pennyforgeorgia.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again, Judge Penny Brown Reynolds. We appreciate you so much and the best of everything as you head into the June 16th runoff election.
Thank you. I receive it.
Amen. It is so.
Okay. Bye bye.
Goodbye.